My name is Elliot Raines, and I was 39 when I died. Not metaphorically. Not in the part of me died, poetic nonsense people throw around after a breakup. No, my heart stopped, my lungs quit, and I left this body in a way I can't fully explain. But I'll try. Before any of this, I live a life people would call good. I had a modern loft in downtown Seattle, two needy but lovable cats named Toast and Lola, a high-paying job as a senior UX designer for a tech company that sold subscription-based mindfulness apps, and a boyfriend, Nico, who made the best chai lattes this side of the Cascades. We've been together for 5 years, survived 2 layoffs, 3 apartment moves, and one terrifying moment when he almost proposed and I realized I didn't want to marry him. Still, we look solid. Instagrammable. We had seasonal photos at Pike Place, arguments about gluten-free pizza crusts, and a shared plant collection that thrived despite our neglect. I told myself I was happy. But underneath, there was a hum I'd been ignoring for years. Something hollow. A whisper that everything I'd built was curated, safe, beautifully constructed, but spiritually rootless. I was raised in a home that was spiritual but not religious. My mom burned sage and believed in past lives. My dad called himself a secular mystic, which basically meant he meditated in the backyard and read Rumi while drinking Pinot. God? No, thank you. Too rigid, too patriarchal, too exclusive. But then I died, and I found out how wrong I was. It was October, a Wednesday, the kind of crisp, gold leaf day Seattle gets just before the eternal rain comes back. I left work early for once, windows down, Nico's lo-fi playlist humming through the speakers. I took the long route home Lake Washington Boulevard, winding and scenic. I remember glancing down to change the song. Just 1 second. Then brakes. Screeching. Metal on metal. A white truck. Too close. Impact. Darkness. But not silence. I didn't wake up in a hospital bed. I rose literally. Up. Out of my body. Hovering. I saw the wreckage below. My car, mangled against a tree. Glass everywhere. My body slumped forward, unmoving, blood pooling near the pedals. Paramedics hadn't even arrived yet. And I felt nothing. No fear. No pain. Just observation. Like watching a play from a balcony seat. Then came the sound, a low hum, deep and resonant, like a subwoofer in my chest. It vibrated through everything. And the light came. Not soft. Not warm. Not that tunnel of love you hear about in near-death stories. This was a vortex, swirling, bright, consuming. It pulled at me like gravity. And I went. Suddenly, I was everywhere at once. I experienced my entire life, not as a slideshow of memories, but as a layered, emotional tapestry. Every decision, every word, every secret. I felt my choices ripple through time. Every time I had lied, minimized, withheld. Every time I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't. Every time I encouraged someone to live their truth, while I quietly questioned my own. I saw Nico, our laughter, our intimacy, but also our emptiness. I saw how we used each other to stave off loneliness, how we called it love, when it was really codependency. And then I felt him. No face, no body, just presence, pure, unfiltered being. But I knew who it was. I knew it like I knew my own name. Jesus. Not the flannel-wearing hippie from Sunday school posters. Not the angry judge from Twitter theology threads. This was the Alpha and Omega. The kind of holy that makes you want to fall flat and weep. He didn't speak, but I heard him. You were seen. Completely. I should have been ashamed. But I wasn't. Because with the seeing came love. Fierce, holy love. A love that didn't coddle, didn't excuse, didn't flinch, but never once turned away. I opened my mouth, or whatever counted as a mouth, and the question came out like a wail. Am I wrong for being gay? A silence followed, deep and vibrating. Then he showed me. Moments. Layers. Hidden memories. I saw myself as a boy, confused by my lack of connection to other boys. Drawn to their confidence. Their strength. Wanted to be close, to belong, to merge. This is not sin, he said. This is longing, innocent, but twisted by brokenness. Then came adolescence, shame, secrecy, the thrill of discovery, and a crash of guilt. I saw how I had searched for love in mirrors of myself, hoping to find what was missing. The desire is not the wound. The identity built around it is. I didn't understand. I thought love is love. I whispered. Love is me, he answered. He showed me my relationships, Nico, the ones before him, and how none of them had been evil. But none of them had lifted me toward him either. They were beautiful prisons, comfortable lies. I asked the hardest question. Are you asking me to be straight? I'm asking you to be mine. He showed me two futures. In one, I went back to life unchanged, kept my identity, my relationship, my echo chamber. I saw how it ended slowly, subtly, spiritually dead, not punished but empty, alone. In the other, I returned and surrendered everything. My sexuality, my pride, my self-definition. I saw the struggle, the loneliness, the cost, but I also saw joy, real joy, the kind that doesn't need applause. You won't walk alone, he said, but you will walk different. I made my choice. The light shattered. I woke up choking, tubes in my throat, nurses yelling. I had been dead for 4 minutes. They called it a miracle, but I called it rebirth. Nico was there. I told him everything. He wept, then got angry. He said I was brainwashed, hurt, confused. I said, I'm finally clear. He left, and I started again. It was slow, ugly, beautiful. I found a small church where nobody clapped at testimonies. They just listened, prayed, loved. I started meeting others, men like me, women too, not ex-gay, not converted, just honest, seeking truth over comfort. We formed a group. We didn't fix each other. We followed together, carried each other's burdens, spoke the truth in love. Sometimes I still feel the old desires, but I don't obey them. Not because I'm afraid, but because I found someone better to obey. Now I speak, not to be famous, not to be right, but because I know there are Elliots out there still floating, still curating their lives, still mistaking applause for peace. And I want them to know, the truth isn't a doctrine. The truth is a person, and he knows your name. There were days I still reach for Nico in bed, out of habit more than hope. Not physically, not anymore, but grief can be strange that way, like a phantom limb you still feel, even after it's gone. I'd reach out for his warmth, his familiar rhythm of breath beside mine, and then feel the cold truth settle in. I had chosen something bigger than comfort. That choice didn't come with fireworks. It came with empty coffee cups and awkward silences. Friends stopped calling. My coworkers, the ones who'd once praised my authenticity, seemed suddenly unsure how to talk to me. The queer community I'd spent years building quietly shifted away like sand under tide. I had become, to many, the worst kind of outcast, someone who changed direction. But I wasn't bitter. Not exactly. Just quieter now. Still, there was peace in the stillness. But it was a peace I had to fight for every single day. I used to think of spiritual growth as a staircase upward, linear, logical. But it's more like a desert. You wander, you thirst, you doubt, you ache, and sometimes you hear nothing but your own breath and the echo of your questions. I remember sitting in the back row of that tiny church, watching dust dance in the sunlight through stained glass. The sermons were simple. The music was off-key, but the people, they were real. No performance, no pretense, just broken souls clinging to grace. One Sunday, a woman named Marla shared her story. She'd been a tarot reader, a Reiki healer, a self-proclaimed light worker. Then, like me, she encountered Jesus, not the idea, but the person. Her voice trembled as she spoke of surrender, of letting go of the identity she'd built. After the service, I approached her. I feel like I'm unraveling, I confessed. She smiled gently. Maybe that's the point. Weeks turned into months. I journaled obsessively, trying to make sense of the shift within me. One night, I wrote a letter to Nico, not to send, but to say what I couldn't before. Dear Nico, I miss your laugh. I miss how you danced in the kitchen when you thought I wasn't watching. I miss the way you made me feel seen. But I don't miss the emptiness I carried, even when I was with you. I don't miss the way I hid parts of myself to keep the peace. I met someone, not in the romantic sense, in the eternal sense, and he showed me who I really am. I'm not asking you to understand. I'm just asking you to know that I finally found the truth I've been chasing. Love, Elliot. I folded the letter and tucked it into my Bible. A symbol of closure, perhaps, or maybe a seed of hope. One morning, I stood before the mirror, staring at the man looking back. Same eyes, same scars, but something was different. I saw strength where there was once fear, clarity where there was confusion, purpose where there was performance. I whispered, "You are his." And for the first time, I believed it. Months later, I received an invitation to speak at a local college's interfaith panel. The topic, identity and spirituality. I hesitated. Public speaking wasn't my forte, but something stirred within me, a nudge, perhaps. The auditorium was modest, filled with students of various backgrounds. As I took the stage, I felt the familiar flutter of nerves. I used to define myself by labels. I began, gay, designer, progressive, spiritual but not religious. Laughter rippled through the crowd. But then I died, literally. And in that moment, I met the one who created me. I shared my story, the accident, the encounter, the transformation. I spoke of surrender, of finding identity not in orientation, but in relationship. When I finished, silence hung in the air. Then a student raised her hand. Do you think it's possible to be both true to yourself and to God? I smiled. I think being true to yourself starts with knowing who God says you are. One evening, as I left the church, I saw a familiar figure waiting by the steps. Nico. He looked older, wearier, but his eyes still held that spark. Hey, he said softly. Hey. We stood in silence for a moment. I read your letter, he finally said. I felt my heart race. I didn't think you would. He nodded. I didn't understand. Still don't, fully. But I see the peace in you. And I wanted to see it for myself. We talked for hours about life, faith, the winding paths we'd taken. There was no rekindling, no promises. Just two souls reconnecting, if only briefly. As we parted, he hugged me tightly. I'm proud of you, he whispered. Tears welled in my eyes. Thank you. In time, I felt a calling, not just to share my story, but to walk alongside others on similar journeys. I started a small group called the Wayfarers. We met weekly, sharing our struggles, our questions, our victories. It wasn't about fixing each other. It was about walking together toward the one who could. We laughed. We cried. We prayed. And in that sacred space, healing flowed. One night, a young man named Jordan shared, I thought I had to choose between my identity and God. But maybe I just need to let him define me. I nodded. Exactly. Years passed. The group grew. Stories multiplied. I wrote a book detailing my journey. It wasn't a bestseller, but it reached those who needed it. I received letters from around the world. People who'd felt unseen, unloved, unworthy. They found hope in my story, not because of me, but because of the one who transformed me. And as I stood on stages, in living rooms, in coffee shops, I shared the same truth. The truth isn't a doctrine. The truth is a person. And he knows your name. I still have moments of doubt. Days when the old desires whisper. But they no longer define me. Because I met the light. And once you've seen the light, you can't go back to the dark. My name is Elliot Raines. I died at 39, and I came alive in him.